You want me to tell you about my habits? I'll tell you about my habits. Hashtag habits are for wimps.
I'm not really sure I should be making this video right now, but it is a viewer requested video, and that is on habits. Well, I'm not even sure how to begin, to be honest. To say I have failed in this is a gross understatement. This probably is going to be a little bit emotional because this is the one that hits hardest for me. Of all the things that I wish I could attain in my homeschool, in my home, forget homeschool, of all the things I wish I could attain in my home, and the one that leaves such a mark on me and everything that I measure myself up to as a mom would be in this habit training. I don't even know how to talk about this. So I don't even know why I'm sitting here even trying. I had this vision as a young mom of not just the girls in white dresses and blue satin sashes, but the gentlemen, the boys of good conversation, and the daughters that were so willing to jump up and help everyone. And I knew there was a cultivating factor in that. But that's never been my issue. It's always been the surrounding environment that I realize that I'm up against. My husband and I lament this all the time, and I've been so careful not to use it as a crutch or an excuse as to why things aren't the way I want them. And that really just, we're like, you know what, today is harder to parent. All you have to do is go to the grocery store and find out. You go to the grocery store and you are bombarded with so many options of things to buy. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not just going to buy an apple. I can go and I have to choose something out of the 18 varieties available. I have to go and choose the carrots out of 3 or 4 different kinds. I have to go and select the cheapest meat. I have to go and walk up and down 16, 17, 18 aisles. The ones that I do need to go down, I need to make a decision. I have to find what I'm looking for, and I have to make a decision. Most of the time, I have to read the labels. And a simple shopping trip of just going and grabbing a can of tomatoes turns into a 2-hour ordeal of choosing tomatoes that do not have sugar in them, choosing tomatoes that are the cheapest, choosing every item in my cart wisely so that I don't go over a budget. These decisions I have to make by myself and then get to checkout. Pray to God my calculations in my head are correct. Can you imagine what it's like for a child? Generally, exceptions are there. Generally, for me, when I walk into a store, my kids aren't the same kids that they are when we leave the store. That's most of the time why I don't go shopping with my kids, but when I do have to, they are, to begin with, tired. And my kids thrive on food all the time. They're always hungry. So here we are in this huge store of vast food. Not only that, sugar. And their eyes have to, your mind is has to identify everything. We learned this. Your brain automatically has to identify something or associate it with something to recognize it. Their little brains are doing this constantly. They are trying to make sense of all of their surroundings. Not only that, you've got music blaring in your ears. the music today isn't what it was when I was growing up. It was the elevator music, which of course is cheesy, but today the lyrics are awful. And I don't expect you to play the classical music anymore. It would be my preference, but I don't expect them to. That's not our culture today. But do I really have to be assaulted every time I go into a grocery store? And the kids have to deal with this. And then not only that, friends that we love and respect and admire play the kind of things that we don't agree with. I don't agree with Minecraft and zombies. I don't agree with zombies at all. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that just I don't like. I don't like what electronics does to my children. I let them do it. We're in this day and age where I think that they need to learn how to use it wisely, but I don't like what my children become when they have it. But we're surrounded by all this stuff. I encourage all of you to read the book Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman. Read that book. It's just an eye-opening thing as I sit here making YouTube videos for a computer. Our children are bombarded with all this, and now we're trying to put them in a more focused manner while all of their surroundings are pulling their attention. All habits that Charlotte Mason had: cleanliness, courtesy, kindness, manners, modesty and purity, neatness, order, regularity, candor, courage, diligence, fortitude, generosity, gentleness. Where are they surrounded by this? They're not. We are fighting daily, minute, okay? I can walk outside the door to take my kids to the car, and off the top of my head, we are assaulted by bad language from the neighbors around them. From disrespect, okay? Not disrespect to other people, but only to your own self. My kids were playing at a park this past week, and this kid was telling a joke about a kid in a bathroom, and he calls his body parts his junk. And my kids were retelling this joke to me and laughing and giggling. I don't know if I handled it correctly, but at the time I was like, no. You need to have more self-respect for yourself. Calling something that is beautifully and wonderfully made junk is awful. But they're surrounded by it from these kids that they hang out with. So now I've got to counteract this. But it is every single step of the way. Again, going back, there's a whole bunch of habits to attain. And it's not going to be attained in childhood. I'm still trying to attain these in my adulthood. But I have to fight every single day, almost at any time. At any time. We can't seclude ourselves, but at the same time, I'm trying to find a balance here. I'm trying to find a balance of letting them go and do activities that they need to get their energy out, to interact with other children, and then I have to almost undo everything because our principles are different. I'm not trying to raise them Amish. And I know children are children, but I don't feel like I have the same standards that a lot of other parents have. And I'm more lax in things that I feel like other parents are more intense in. So, habits. How am I teaching habits? I'm yelling at them a lot. I'm not proud of it. I do not recommend it. Please don't do what I'm doing. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into their bedroom and clothes are on the floor. I can't tell you how many times I've told them, do your clothes go on the floor? No. They get folded and put in your drawers. You don't need to change 20 million times a day. You should only be changing out of your PJs into your clothes. Your PJs should be going on your bed. I've had that conversation every night. In a Charlotte Mason atmosphere, you don't nag the child to do it. And that's what I'm doing. But to retrain myself to teach them correctly, To say is exhausting is an understatement. To be honest, there's a lot on me at this point. Am I leaving clothes on the floor? And as I look around, I have my pajamas on the floor. Some of it is because the kids kick it off my bed. Most of the time it's because I'm in a rush in the morning. I wait till the last second to get dressed, and then I have people show up that are ready for me to teach, and so I'm trying to get dressed as quickly as possible. I don't know if this is the video you wanted to watch, but here's the reality. And maybe I need a little bit more reality on my channel. Apparently I've got the picture perfect homeschool. Ha 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 ha. I can tell you what you need to do to attain habits. I'm going to tell you one thing that I was told as a new mom, and something I really, really wish I would have understood the significance of. And to all you new mamas out there, if you're watching me, start now. And that was to be consistent in whatever I did. When we moved to this house, it was bigger, and I was on the top of the world. I was like, oh, finally, I'm going to have the routines down, and things are going to be the way I expect them to be. They're not. The clothes are still on the floor. Kids still leave their toys out all over the place. And at the end of the day, I'm exhausted from not only being a homeschool stay-at-home mom, I'm exhausted because I'm working 3 jobs as a stay-at-home mom. And now I need to turn around and clean up after my children. Yeah, my children do chores. Absolutely. They are required to do it. Usually at get this room cleaned now. Usually. Sometimes it's, okay, let's see what we can do. Most of the time it is, I've had it, the mess has gotten too much for me, it's too chaotic, and I blow. And the diligence I needed was to teach them, get a toy out and you put it away when you're done. And I did that for a long time. But when you start adding more kid and more kid and more kid, and you're trying to keep track, okay, you're playing this, you're playing that, okay, so there's more toys out. But now this person has gone away to play with something else and left this out. That was when I really needed to kind of train myself to identify. Because once you start getting lax, then everything you've worked for is undone. I picked this up for Marshall's. Y'all remember this game? And I do this every stinking time I see something fun that I remember having a great time as a kid, and I purchase it and I think of this grand thing that's going to happen. And the kids did. We had great 10 minutes playing this game. This one doesn't have the timer on it. I don't understand that. But we had a great 10 minutes playing this game. And then I went and made supper, and I came back, and already 2 of the fish were destroyed. They decided that these would make great communion cups to play church with. Not sure that's a plus. I don't know where half the fish are now. In just that short amount of time, it wasn't used in the way it should have been used. This is not the first time something like this has happened. And I keep saying, this is the last. I'm done. And silly me, find something that I think will be great time spent together with, and I throw it all away. I'm not sure I'm the best person to ask about building habits. I just tell you that you really need to do them, and you need to be consistent and diligent with them. Would not do for constancy. Well, I don't want to be Debbie Downer. Is that what they call it? A Debbie Downer? But here's a real look at how I'm doing, or lack thereof, the habits. Our family is not thriving on those at all. I can keep a clean house after the kids are in bed, or between the 4 and 5 o'clock time. But I haven't trained my children to treat things respectfully, to talk respectfully out of earshot as well as within earshot. I haven't trained my daughter not to roll her eyes at me. Still working on that one. I can share with you all the wonderful books that we have read. I can share with you the great homeschooling moments we'll have. But some of the things that matter the most and that mean the most to me at this moment, I failed. I am a perfectionist, and if something isn't done perfectly the way I expect it to, I don't want to do it at all. As you can imagine, parenting has been rather interesting and very hard. Charlotte Mason's 6 volumes are mainly on the attaining of habits. It's easy to pick up a book and read. It's so much harder to create good moral habits. If you really want a good read, and I don't know how to put it, one of the best books I read last year, or the year before, I don't remember, was The Power of Habit. I had seen this kind of floating around, and I was in Target one day, and I was on a 6-hour drive, and I needed something to read, so I picked this up, and I almost completed it during those times. And that's hard to do, especially since it was a nonfiction, because this was before my huge nonfiction takeoff. I think this is actually the one that sparked me finding the ability within myself to do this. But I really recommend reading this. Honestly, once you've read this and you go to Charlotte Mason and her works and her inspiration and her checklist, for lack of a better word, guys, it's like 9:30, okay? But with her checklist on moral habits and why we need to attain them, you are going to be so inspired to make sure that it happens. I'm trying. Maybe I can make a video in 20 years and tell you where it all went. I'm not sure. I can tell you that I wake up every single day and say this is going to be a new start. And I end every single night with, oh my gosh, what did I do? What happened? I thought it was going to be a fresh start. A fresh start doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It just means it's a fresh start to try to make it happen. And there you go. That's what I encourage you to do. Start today. Start with one habit. You work on that habit for 6 weeks. I don't know how to tell you more than that. There's so much in my mind, but I really don't feel qualified to give you anything else. I'm encouraging you to read this. If you need a more hands-on thing, I definitely encourage this. The only thing I am finding with this is that you do need to do research before using it. That's just my humble opinion on that, is just to kind of research it before you start and have some kind of game plan. And then home education, the first volume, and it's really centered on the habits, if I remember correctly. And those are the resources I would start with. Alright, I'm going to end it here, and that's what I have for you. Alright guys, I'll see you in my next video. Talk to you soon. Auf Wiedersehen.